Hello, 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 Falcon fans, Falcon fans. How is everyone? Welcome to the maiden voyage of your boy T. Will's podcast. And today we're talking about the Falcons. So, this is our maiden voyage. Not a whole lot of expectations. If you have a few minutes, spend some time with me. You guys know me from One Time for the Fan. This is my own show. And tonight we're going to be talking Falcons. So without further ado, let's get to it. All right. So for those of you who don't know me, I can be reached if you're trying to subscribe, and please do so at Terry Wilson for my ATL Sports One. The ATL in that is capitalized. So I'm going to drop it in the chat. There it is. All right. So, again, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a regular podcaster for One Time for the Fan. It is a podcast that can be seen on YouTube, Facebook, and a litany of other social media platforms. So that show airs regularly Sunday night, 8 p.m., Wednesday night, 8 p.m., and Friday morning, 9 a.m. This show is airing its maiden voyage, and welcome. So, probably not going to be a whole lot of you out there, and that's okay. Again, this is the initial maiden voyage, and we're just going to try and get through it. Probably be with you guys for maybe 30 minutes tonight or so, and we'll see what happens. So here we go. First things first. There's a potential rumor that the Falcons are looking at trading for Justin Jefferson, who is currently with the Vikings. If you guys happen to see this after it's recorded, I'd love to get your feedback. But if you're with me, you can go ahead and jump in the chat. So my thoughts initially. I don't know about that. Because while initially, the first year, if you trade for him, it would be great. And it would be great. You are going to have to extend him. And Justin Jefferson at this point is probably going to be the highest paid receiver in the league right now. I think the highest contract is $30 million a year. I don't know our salary cap situation, but I'm not in a hurry to add that when we already have guys we need to sign like Kyle, like Drake, like AJ, and a few others. So while it would be, it's certainly tempting. I mean, it is definitely tempting to think about having Justin Jefferson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson, a litany of other receivers and running backs. I mean, my mouth is just salivating thinking about it. But, this is a salary cap driven league. And I just don't know that we can afford to have Justin Jefferson and AJ and Drake and Kyle, and the list goes on and on and on. So at this point, you'd have to pick your poison, right? So I don't know. I don't know. I guess the pros of it is that you probably pass for 5,000, 5,200 yards, right? I mean, that's one. Two, who are you going to double, right? I mean, think about it. You literally have a lineup of Kirk Cousins, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Justin Jefferson. Who's your one? Yeah, I mean, have to be Justin, right? So then Drake becomes number two. You got Daryl Mooney. You got Rondale Moore. You got a litany of options to pass to. So your offense becomes incredibly dangerous. Your depth chart becomes incredibly deep. That's that's the pros. I mean, you're probably scoring 30 to 35 points a game if you add Justin Jefferson. That's the pros, right? And you can't double everyone. More than likely, we're going to score, and it's going to improve the running game because you can't bring up 9-10 in the box. You can't do that now. We trade for Justin Jefferson. You really won't be able to do it, right? You won't be able to do it. So I think, that's one of the pros for it, right? One of the cons are, number one, the salary cap, right? Definitely. I don't know that we can afford to do that. So who's going to go? Who are you not going to re-sign? Are you going to sign Justin Jefferson and not re-sign Drake? Are you going to not re-sign Kyle? I can hear some of you guys now saying, well, Kyle really hasn't done it. He only did it for 1 year. He only had a quarterback for 1 year, right? But are you going to not re-sign Kyle? Who do you trade, right? And then if you trade a draft pick, how is the impending judgment of the NFL going to impact this, right? Lest we not forget the judgment from the NFL for the Falcons and the Kirk Cousins situation. For those of you who don't know, the Falcons are accused of tampering. Tampering is essentially having a conversation with a free agent before the allotted time, right? So if the time was, for giggles, April 1st through April 15th, and you have a conversation with this person about signing him on March the 28th, you've just tampered, right? And it happens a lot in the NFL. But in this case, the Falcons are accused of tampering, and it's very public, and the NFL is embarrassed. So the penalty could be severe. It could be a first-round pick. Could be 2 picks. We don't know. The judgment should come down sometime this week, from what I'm hearing. So if that's the case, the remaining draft picks that you do have for 2025 become all the more valuable. So if you do trade for Justin Jefferson, I don't know, you're probably going to be in a year where you don't have a lot of picks, right? So the more we start to look at this, right, i.e., you got to pay him a whole lot of money. You're probably going to have to let 1 or 2 guys go and not sign them. 1 or 2 very good weapons go and not sign them. I don't know that I necessarily can get on board with that. And again, those of you watching it out there, or who will watch it out there, feel free to tell me your thoughts. But right now, I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. I'm definitely going to say I'm not for it right off. So, I don't know. Anyway, just my thoughts on that. Next topic, Falcons tampering penalty. And, we kind of touched on that a few moments ago, but I legitimately feel like this could be severe. Doesn't mean it will be, right? Doesn't mean it will be, but it could be severe. We could lose a first-round pick. We could use multiple picks, which, if we do, makes the Michael Penix move all that more savvy. Because think about it, right? If we go into 2025 and we don't have a first-round pick, thank God we have 2 quarterbacks now. Thank God the Falcons had the foresight to go ahead and draft Penix last year. Because from my understanding, there's a dearth of talent in the 2025 quarterback pool anyway. You add to that the fact that you don't have a first-round pick, that it's taken from you, that becomes, it becomes difficult. And you probably wouldn't get a quarterback, or you wouldn't get one that would really make a difference in the 2025 draft. So the potential impact is great. We may not have a first-round pick next year, and that would be unfortunate. I mean, we won't know until later this week, but it could be. Could be a 3rd or 4th round pick. Could be much ado about nothing. They could give us a pat on the hand. They could spank us. Don't know. But I do know, and well, I don't know, but you got to figure it's going to be at least a third round pick or higher. And the reason I say that is because the league was embarrassed, right? Kirk is in an interview talking about the trainer. And, I think we've all been here, right, guys? We're talking and we get caught up in the conversation and we're excited about, our new job, our new whatever. And we let out some information that maybe we shouldn't, or maybe it's not job related. I don't know. Maybe you're talking to family or you're talking about something that you're just excited about. You've been sworn to secrecy and boom, you drop something you shouldn't say, right? It happens. In this case, it happened to the Falcons. And because it was during an interview, it was replayed over and over and over and over again. And because of that, the league is very, very embarrassed. It's one thing to do it and nobody find out about it, right? It's another thing to do it and the whole world know about it, right? That's totally different. So I think because of the sheer embarrassment, the penalty is going to be more severe. And some of you say, well, that's not fair. I mean, that's not consistent. The rule should be the rule. It should be the same for everyone. Guys, this is reality. And I'm here to tell you it's not. I'm here to tell you it's not. And that's just real life. You do something to, you're given a directive or a command not to say something and you release it and nobody finds out about it, then nobody finds out about it, right? Or maybe one or two people find out about it, but it's not a big story. Who knows about it? So the punishment is going to fit that to where if the whole world knows that you broke a rule that was set forth by the NFL, like the whole world knows. I mean, in Europe, in Africa, and all the continents, they all know the Falcons did this. Okay, that may be a bit dramatic, but you know what I mean. All the United States knows Falcons broke this rule. Punishment's going to be a little more severe. So I would expect that it would be a third round or higher. I'm going to guess it would be a second round this year, maybe a third round next year, or potentially a first this year and a second next year. I don't know. But that to me, and more than likely some money, right? Anytime you break a rule with the NFL, you're guaranteed you're going to pay some money. So there's definitely going to be money that I would say involved. And, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. I hope that it's not as severe as, I think it's going to be or other Falcons fans think it's going to be, but you just don't know. You just don't know. And that, again, could be much ado about nothing, could be a lot. If it's a first and second round pick, that's going to impact us for years to come. It's going to impact the way we do things. It's going to impact a lot. And so I would think that I legitimately would think that that's why another reason the Falcons chose Penix. Because, again, you can't wait until 2026 to pick a quarterback, and that's essentially what they would have to do if this ruling comes down the way that we and a lot of people think it's going to. So, there you go. All right. Next subject. Grady Jarrett is back. Grady Jarrett, the Falcons defensive tackle, rookie defensive tackle in 2016 that basically stole the show as far as our defense was concerned. 3 sacks in the Super Bowl. And we don't have to get into it. We all know how it ended. We don't have to relive history. But suffice it to say that Grady's performance was epic then, and it has been epic up to this point. Grady is a leader, team leader. I believe, a one-time man of the year or candidate for man of the year. Either way, Grady's a good dude. Grady is also an alpha dog in that locker room. And I say that to say that word around Falcons camp is that his presence is being felt, right? What does that mean? Well, there's some guys, well, and ladies, contingent upon the industry, that their presence changes the overall performance of the team. The way that they do things, the level of respect that they have, the way that they carry themselves, the organization performs differently when they are there. They just perform differently, right? You could argue Jordan. You could argue, with the Bulls. You could argue Steph Curry. You could argue, a lot of guys out there like that. But Grady Jarrett definitely has the pulse of the Falcons locker room, and he makes a difference. Those guys typically perform better when he's there. He impacts the overall tenor, consistency, and chemistry of the locker room. You need guys like Grady Jarrett there, and I just think it's phenomenal that he's back. There are certain guys that when their presence is not there, it's felt. There's certain teammates that when they're not there, it just doesn't feel right. Right? You're missing that extra oomph, whatever that ingredient is, whatever that secret sauce is. You tend to miss it when they're not there. So even though Grady is rehabbing currently, his presence is felt and appreciated, and I think all in all is going to improve the performance of the team and probably push us to greater heights and greater performance. Right? I mean, there are examples of this. Jordan, 96 Bulls, 96 to 98, 91 to 93, something like that. But there were 2 years he left, So for those of you who don't know, Michael Jordan of the Chicago Bulls has 6 rings. He got 3 before his father died. He took a break in between to go play baseball because that's what his father wanted him to do. And, I guess that kind of helped him to get past it. And having just lost my mother recently, I can relate. No, I'm not going to go play baseball. I'm 54 years old and it's too late for me, but I can relate, right? I mean, those of us who experience a loss, sometimes you got to go do something to get yourself through whatever rut you're going through. And I don't know what that is. For me, it's podcasting. So I'm glad you guys are with me or will be with me. But anyway, Jordan wins, I believe, from 91 to 93. Matter of fact, let me look that up so I can be accurate. But anyway, Jordan wins first 3 championships, goes to play for the Chicago Barons, I believe, a minor league team, plays for 2 years. And between those 2 years, the Houston Rockets, I believe, win 2 NBA championships. And then Jordan comes back and the Bulls win another 3. If that isn't an alpha dog impacting team chemistry, I don't know what is, right? Now, I've heard some folks say that Jordan at time could be difficult. And that may be true, but ultimately he got the most out of his teammates. His impact on his teammates was to raise the level of performance. Now, there are different ways you can get there. You know what I mean? You don't have to be an ogre. You don't have to be a taskmaster. It really depends on your personality. But the bottom line is Jordan got results and Jordan was able to maximize, the play of his teammates, ultimately culminating in a championship, right? And I say that to say that when Grady went out last year, you could feel the difference. You could feel it. It was palpable. You could notice that defense wasn't as good. You could say the same for David Onyemata. Once David Onyemata went out, our defense was, I don't want to say non-existent, but you could definitely tell the difference, especially in the run game. You could see it, right? So Grady coming back, David Onyemata coming back, two alpha dogs. It's only going to help the Falcons. It's only going to push the Falcons to be better. And for the record, I think our defensive line is going to be superior to most this year, or at a minimum, top 10. I think our defensive line is great. I'm wondering who's not going to make it, because you can't keep everybody. And there's going to be a really good defensive end or a really good defensive lineman. I'm not going to say end. We need all the defensive ends we can get. But there's going to be a really good defensive tackle or defensive lineman who falls through the cracks, who's going to make another team very happy. Falcons are stacked on the defensive line. You know what I mean? To that end, you got Rook Aurora. We'll just call him Rook. Rook Aurora. I know I butchered his name, Rook. I apologize. You got Brandon Dorlus, who's going to be great. You got Taquan Graham. You got LaKale London. You got Eddie Goldman. Eddie Goldman, the runaway defensive lineman. If he stays, I'm just kidding, Eddie's just jokes. If he stays, I mean, again, that defensive line is going to be formidable, right? You've got Braylon Trice. You've got a whole bunch of other guys. You've got a whole bunch of other guys that we've signed that I can't think of, that somebody's going to fall through the cracks and somebody's going to make an opposing team very happy. I think our defensive line, at a minimum, is going to be top 10, could be top 5. Matter of fact, our front 7 will probably be top 5. Think about the linebackers that we have. Nate Landman, Ellis, Troy Anderson, the guy we drafted. We're going to have a formidable front 7. We got a defense coordinator who can scheme. That's going to be something. Either way, my question to you guys is, who do you think is going to fall through the cracks, right? Probably, if I had to guess, maybe LaKale London, or maybe if Eddie doesn't make it through training camp, if he has another epiphany and decides, he wants to leave, maybe we keep LaKale. But either way, you're going to have a very good defensive lineman or defensive tackle that falls through the cracks. So speaking of that, let's get into some camp battles, right? We talked a little bit about the defensive lineman, but let's look at the edge, 5 on the depth chart, right? So the 5th edge rusher is probably going to come down to D'Angelo Malone, Bradley Anae, or Damon Harris. And if I had to guess, I'm going to say it's between Bradley Anae and D'Angelo. Well, I'm going to say it's between Bradley Anae and Damon Harris. There's an outside shot. D'Angelo Malone doesn't make it, but they've invested a lot in him. And it just seems like it's his time. I could be wrong. I could be really wrong. But I feel like the odd man out is either going to be Bradley Anae or Damon Harris. And again, if you guys are out there, feel free to jump in the chat. You can, tell me your thoughts. Tell me what you're thinking. Anyway, cornerback 2. So obviously our cornerback 1 is AJ, right? That's a given. Cornerback 2 position is going to come down to Clark Phillips, Antonio Hamilton, Mike Hughes, and Kevin King. Now, if you want to know who's going to be selected, the Falcons seem really high on Clark Phillips. And to be honest with you, Clark Phillips is technically sound. Very sound as far as defense, very sound as far as his coverage. Does a really good job. Don't have an issue with Clark Phillips coverage skills. My issue is he's 5'9". And when he goes up against 6'5" receivers, that's going to be tough on a 50-50 ball, right? That's going to be tough when you're in the end zone and the quarterback just puts it up there on a fade for you to defend. That's going to be tough. Now, maybe you scheme for that. Maybe you're in 65 to 70% zone and it really doesn't matter because 7 out of 10 times you're not in man anyway, right? But if you're not, with some of these receivers, that height's going to come get you. That's just my opinion. Again, I'm not a coach for the Falcons. I'm not a player. I don't put my body on the line. So I say all of this with as much respect as I can muster. This is just one man's opinion, but it feels like it's going to be Clark Phillips. And if so, I wonder, Now, with that being said, it could be one of Antonio Hamilton or Kevin King. I don't see it being Mike Hughes. If you want to know the truth, I honestly think Mike Hughes could be on his way out. Again, doesn't mean that he is, right? I'm not an evaluator of talent for the NFL, and I'm not a coach. But looking at the choices, looking at what we have, it just seems like Mike Hughes would be the odd man out. Or maybe not, because now we go to cornerback 3, D. Alford and Mike Hughes. I like D. Alford. I like the fact that he can get certain jumps on the ball. He knows when to take chances. He's a smart player. I would say he has a high football IQ. He knows when to go for the strip. He knows he just has his way around the ball, and I like him as a cornerback 3. So my humble opinion between D. Alford and Mike Hughes is going to be D. Alford all day. Again, could be wrong. So we got 2 more positions. We got strong safety and kick returner. Strong safety is kind of where I don't know, right? So you got Richie Grant and DeMarco Hellams. Now, I like DeMarco Hellams. DeMarco Hellams can, as the old folks used to say, lay the wood, which means he can really hit. I mean, he could come up and rattle somebody's cage. He can, I don't know. He can loosen the particles in your nostrils. He can rock that head. He can really pack a wallop. He can hit you really hard. In other words, it's going to leave a mark, right? But he's not great in coverage, and neither is Richie Grant. So again, if we're in a defense where either one of them has to cover somebody, it's probably not to our advantage. Which again, just from what I'm hearing, from what I've seen, the bulk of the packages we're going to be in as Falcons, we're probably going to run a zone coverage scheme. So you probably don't have to worry about Richie and or DeMarco being in coverage for 7 out of 10 times. But, again, all that's hearsay. So if I had to make a choice, I'd say it's probably Richie Grant, which isn't going to make a whole lot of Falcons. Well, I shouldn't say that. Which isn't going to make some Falcons fans happy because, some Falcons fans just have issues with Richie. And in all honesty, Richie at times can be pretty good. I've seen Richie lay the wood. I've seen Richie sometimes be where he needs to be. I just think he, sometimes can struggle in man coverage. But again, in a situation where you're in zone most of the time, that really doesn't come into play. So here I'm going to say you probably start Richie, but DeMarco's going to get a whole lot of playing time. Because DeMarco just seems to be in the right place at the right time, doing what he should be doing at the time he should be doing it. And there are certain instincts you just can't teach, right? So I'm gonna say in this instance Richie, but you know, by the narrowest of margins. I still think we see a whole lot of DeMarco Hellams in packages where you need 3 safeties. So that's it. Last but not least, camp battles. Kick return. You got Ray McLeod. You got Avery Williams. Some say Bijan Robinson, but why would you put Bijan back there? Like I just don't see it, which means probably the Falcons will do it first game. You know what I mean? First kickoff of the season, they'll put Bijan back there just because, I don't see it. Because I really didn't see the Michael Penix pick. So, and again, I'm not arguing against it. I can dig it. I love it. I'm on with the logic now, but I just didn't see it initially. We talked about that on our show one time for the fan, and it was funny because we said, well, what's the one move that you don't expect tonight? And and it was Michael Penix, and and you know the rest. So with that being said, I'm gonna say the Falcons probably pick both Ray McLeod and Avery Williams to do kickoffs and punt returns. Right? I would say Ray for punt returns and maybe Avery for kickoffs, or vice versa. But that would be, or maybe you don't even keep Avery. Maybe Avery is one of those who falls through the cracks and gets cut. If Avery's on the practice squad, I think somebody's going to snatch him up. So, just depends, right? But my humble opinion, I think they both are retained on the team, and I think one does kick returns and one does punt returns, and your guess is as good as mine as that is concerned. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So, guys, thank you for accompanying me on my maiden voyage here. So, again, the name of the podcast is For My ATL Sports One. Oh my gosh, what happened? Okay, sorry guys, lost you there for a sec. The name of the podcast is For My ATL Sports One. You can check me out on YouTube at Terry Wilson For My ATL Sports One, and ATL in the For My ATL Sports One is capitalized. And again, I will drop it in the chat. But this video will be posted there. Please like and subscribe, and let's see if we can get this going. For now, I will be doing this show probably on Mondays through Wednesdays, I'll say. Right now, maybe 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. So if you want to talk a little Falcons in the morning, or, you want to hear about some Falcons in the morning, please feel free to join. Thank you for your time. Those of you who were able to look in and see. And you guys have a great night. Signing off. Again, I can be reached at Terry Wilson For My ATL Sports One. That's on YouTube. Check me out. And you guys have a great day. Thank you for listening. So long.